Hello everyone. So today we are going to see how you can use sliders in GeoGebra. In particular, we are going to see how you can use a slider to start different type of functions, like how you can use a slider to start, let's say, a linear function, or how you can use a slider to start polynomial functions. And also we can see how you can use slider to start polar functions. Now let us start. Remember that we are still using GeoGebra Classic 6. This is GeoGebra Classic 6. Okay, if you don't have this app, you can simply go online and then basically go to www.geogebra.org /download, and then go to GeoGebra Classic 6, so you can download it, so you can start. Okay, to if you want to use online version. Okay, now let us start. Okay, now in this case you may be interested in studying, let's say, in studying, let's say, linear functions. Consider, for instance, a general equation like this. So you have mc plus c, where actually we know that m represents the slope and then c represents the intercept. Okay, now in this case, sometimes we may be interested in knowing what is going to be the changes in the equation of the line if we change the slope of that line, or what is going to be the impact in the linear equation if you change the intercept and something like that. So if you want to visualize the impact of changing this, now you can use a slider. Now remember, in this case we have two variables. We have m and then c. So we are going to define m, and then we're going to define c over a given interval. Okay. Now let us start that. Okay. So if you come at this point, the slider is actually given at this box. It's given by a is equal to 2. So click this and then go to slider. Okay, then after doing that, the instruction is that select a position. So I'm going to put it at this position, and after clicking that, you get a box requiring you to fill in some of the informations. Now in this case, because I have two variables, m and c, I'm going to start with m. So I will define the slope instead of having a, which is our default. Later I'm going to put my own letter, which is m is equal to 1. Okay, then the minimum number in this case is -5, and the maximum number is 5. Okay, now the increment, I'm going to specify the increment of 0.01. Okay, then after doing that, click OK. So you can now see that you have m is equal to 1. Now remember that m is equal to 1 is actually the starting point. Okay, it's given by default. So if you move this forward and then you move this back, you can see that the slope changes are from -5 to 5, and the increment is 0.01. Okay, now because we have two variables, I'm going to add another slider for the second variable, which is c. So I'm going to add c. So I'm going to have c is equal to 1. Then I'm going to put the increment, which is 0.01. Then I'm going to click OK like this. So in this case, we have these two sliders. Okay, so you have the first slider going from minus we have the slider for the intercept going from -5 to a maximum 5. Now remember, you can value this manually, or you can use players. Remember that this is actually the symbol for player, so you can play this and you can see that the value of the slope vary dynamically like that. Okay, now after defining the two variables that we have, which is m and c, now let us go and check how now you can implement this. Okay, now because we have the value of m and then c, so I'm going to define the equation, which is y is equal to m. So it's m times times x, then plus c, sorry, this is yes, plus c. So we have this equation. Okay, we have this equation. Now in this case, you can you can change the color of this. Let's maybe let us change the color of this so that it can be yes, this one. Maybe let us put this color. Okay, so we have this color. Let me increase the length of the size of this. Okay, so we have this line. Now this is actually the line. Remember this position, the slope is m, the slope m is equal to 3.01 and the intercept is 1.7. Now if we want to validate this graph dynamically, you can do that by either moving this manually, and you can see that as you change the slope, as you decrease the slope, then this line is going also to change. Okay, so if we value this, okay, so at 0, you can see that at 0, sorry, we don't have okay, we have 0. So at 0, this is a flat. You can see that it's actually the slope is 0. So we have a flat line like that. And if we change the line like this, you can see that now you have the negative slope like that, and then you have that. Now, instead of moving this manually, you can use the player. So the player allows you to vary the that line dynamically, okay, without moving it manually. Now, if we play this, you can see that the slope actually increases and decreases at the same time. Your line is going to change its shape. Now this is actually very interesting, especially when you are teaching math. It actually allows the student to see now what is the impact of changing the slope. What is going to happen, let's say, if the slope is 5, and what's going to happen when the slope is 0, or what's going to happen when the slope is a negative number, and something like that. Now let us assume this is maybe we want the slope, let's say, to be at that point. Okay, so I'm going to stop it. Now let us see what is the impact of changing the intercept. Okay, so I'm going to play C, the player for C. So if you change this, you can see that the line move forward and then the line move backward. Okay, so changing the intercept actually shifted the line, shifted the position of the line. Okay, so if it's a negative number, then it's actually come back. If it's actually a positive number, it actually go forth, and something like that. Okay, so that is how you can use a slider to study the behavior of linear functions. Okay, so because I'm not interested in this, again, I'm going to delete this. So I'm going to remove this. I'm going to remove this one again. Okay, now let us see the other equation. For instance, let us assume now you want to start the behavior of let's say you want to start the behavior of a quadratic equation. Okay, can it be a quadratic equation, or you can use yes, let us use a quadratic equation. Now remember, the general equation for the quadratic is actually given by y is equal to so it's actually given by this. So we're going to have we're going to have something like this. We're going to have okay, we're going to have a x squared, then plus bx, then plus c. Okay, now remember, in this case now we have 3 variables. We have a, then we have b as a variable, and then we have the intercept as a variable. That means we need 3 sliders. We need slider for a, we need slider for b, and we need slider for c. So the interval for a, the interval in which you're going to define a, is actually depend on actually where you want your a to start, or where you want your a to end. And again, for b, is the same thing. Where do you want your b to start? Where do you want your b to end? And similarly for c. Now let us see how we can implement that in GeoGebra. Okay, so we have a, b, and c. So I'm going to define the slider. I'm going to create the slider. So the first one, I'm going to, sorry, let me start again. So I'm going to this is already a slider, so I'm going to choose the position. So you can choose any position. Okay, so I'm going to put it at this point. Now remember, my first variable is a, so by default we have a, so I don't care about this, and I'm going to leave it as it is. So I'm just going to change the increment in this case, which is 0.01. Okay, so okay, then I'm going to create the second slider for b. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to choose the position at this point. Remember, by default, it's already labeled b is equal to 1, so just leave it as it is. So we're going to have the increment is 0.01, so click this. Okay, then I'm going to create the slider for c. So I'm going to have this is equal to 1, which is already there. Then we have 0.01, then we have this thing. Okay, so you can maybe put it at the same position like that, then you can put it like this. So we have three sliders. And why we have three sliders? We have three sliders because we have three variables in our quadratic equation, a, b, and c. Okay, now let us put the equation in the command box. Remember that we have y is equal to a. So we have this equation. We have y is equal to a. So it is a times it is a times this, so we have times x square, then we have plus, then we have b, then we have times x, then we have plus c. Okay, so we have that. Okay, so we have that we have y is equal to ax plus bx plus c. Now in this case, this graph, this is actually the graph for when a is equal to 1, b is equal to 1, and c is equal to 1, because we've already defined these things. Now let us see what is going to happen, let's say, if we change the value of a. Okay, so if we change the value of a, you can see that if this value actually increase, then is that you are going to, it's like you're compressing the graph. But when this goes to 0, you have a straight line, you have a linear equation. Okay, and when you change it to negative, then the curve will open downward like that, and then it will keep on compressing like that. Okay, so if you want this to change automatically, use the player at this point. Okay, so I'm going to use the player by playing at this point, and you can see that this graph is going to change like that. When it's going to positive, then it will be compressed, and when it's actually decreased, going to be wider, and after that is going to open downward and then compress it as you decrease the value of a. Okay, yeah, that's how we go, man. Now we have that thing. Okay, now let us go to the other variable, which is b. Now what's going to be the impact of changing b? Let us use the play again. So if you play this, you can see that now the graph will shift, going down and then going up like that. So if you have like that, so you have when it's minus, it will go to the right hand side. Then if it's positive number, maximum positive number like that up to 5, then it's going to go to the left hand side. Okay, now let us stop at this point and see what is the impact of changing the intercept. So if we change the intercept, then the position of that graph is going to change. So it will actually go up to that 5, then it's going to be to go up to the lowest value, which is minus 5. Okay, so that is actually the impact, and you can see now what is going to happen for the quadratic equation if we change the value of a, if we change the value of b, and if we change the value of theta. I think you can see that, and it's actually very easy to explain to the students, because they will be in a position to see actually what is the impact of changing these things dynamically. Okay, now I'm not interested in this, so I'm going to delete this, and again I'm going to delete this. Okay, now let us see for instance for the case of let's say for the case of polar coordinates. Let us suppose now we want to see changes in a polar coordinate, and basically I'm going to assume this thing. So I'm going to assume that we have a polar function like r is equal to, let's say, is equal to a, then plus b cos of theta, like this. Okay, now the good thing about slider is that it gives you an opportunity to to vary this value of A, and then to vary with the value of B, and see what is going to be the impact in the graph. Now in this case, I'm going to take A and B as my variables. So just like before, I will start by defining that. I will start by creating the slider. Okay, so I will have the slider. Let me put at this point. So I have A, so I leave A as it is. So we have this 0.01, just like before. So we have the first slider, then I will have the second slider because I have A and B. So we'll have -5, then I will have 0. Let's say 0.1 again. So we're going to have two sliders. So we have the slider for B, and then we have the slider for A. Now remember, our polar equation is this. So we have this polar equation, which is r is equal to A plus B cos of theta. So I'm going to now let me put the equation, which is r is equal to A plus B times cos of theta. Okay, so cos of theta, just come with this keyboard and then choose alpha, beta, gamma, which represent Greek letters, and then click theta like that. Okay, then after that we are done, and then you can click enter like that. Now this is actually what we get. Let me change the color of this. I have already explained in my previous videos about how you can change the color of this. Let me put this color. Okay, now you can see now this is actually the this is actually a polar polar functions, and it's a general. It's A plus B cos of theta. But at this position, remember, our A is 1 and our B is 1. Now let us see what is going to be the impact. Let's say when A become negative, or when A become a large positive number. In this case, remember, we are starting from -5 to 5. So let us play this. So you can evaluate this manually by, you can see that how this is going to vary like that. If you increase this is equal like that, then if you decrease this, you can see that how this polar is going to behave is going to be like that. So when it's negative, then it's actually become like that. If we change like that, okay. So let us play this and see how it's going to vary. Okay. Oh, very interesting. This when it's okay, it's 5, then it's keep on decreasing. Okay. Oh, okay, so that is actually very interesting. Okay, very interesting. Now let us see what happened when you change let's say the let us end at this point. Now let us see what happened when you change B. So when you change B, that is what is going to happen. Okay, so when B is positive, then that is going to happen. Okay, when B now is negative, what is going to happen is like that. Okay, when B is negative, remember that now the curve will move to the left hand side and then behave just like the way before. Remember, this is actually when B is minus. Okay, and when B is positive, it actually goes again to the that side and then behave like that. So you can do this for all polar functions. Let me show you, for instance, for the other polar functions. Let me show for the case, let's say, of this. Let me remove this first. Let's say we have another polar function. Okay, let's say we have another polar function. Basically, let's say we have something like r is equal to maybe cos of let's say cos of A theta. And remember, in this case now our variable is A. So our variable in this case is A. So now let us see what is going to happen. Okay, now because we have only a single slider, so I'm going to define a slider. Let me put it at this position, just leave it it is, because we have defined it as A. Then we have 0. Maybe let me put the smaller increment 0.01, and then let's put OK. Then let me write my equation, my polar function, which is r is equal to cos of cos of 4, maybe for cos of 4 theta. Okay, so just use the built-in keyboard, then go to Greek letters, then choose a theta, something like that. So this is actually what is going to happen. This is actually the resulting polar function. Now you can change the color of this. Let me put to blue. Okay, so you have beautiful thing like this. Now let us see what happens when you change the value of a. Okay, so when you change the value of a, nothing is going to happen. Okay, so when you change, oh my god, I've done a mistake. Sorry, let me delete this. So I'm supposed to write y is equal to, not y, r is equal to cos of it's 4 theta. Now let me write, now it's a, so we have the variable a is a theta, so it's a times theta like this, so we have something like that. Okay, oh, so this is what we have. Now let me change the color of this. Let us say we have this. Let me increase this line size. Let's say we have this thing. Yeah, now let us see what is going to happen when we change this. This is when a is equal to minus 1.1. What happened when we have this? Oh, when a is equal to what? Oh, when a is equal to minus 0.3, we get a spiral. Then this changes like that, and then that changes like that. Oh, very interesting. Okay, so like that, like that. Oh, this is very interesting, like that. Now let us use the automatic prayer. Oh, let us put the color of this. Yeah, let us do this. Oh my gosh, that is very interesting, very interesting. Now you can see what happened when a becomes, when a changes, what is actually going to be the impact like that. So it's GeoGebra is basically very a nice thing, where it actually allows you to vary different functions dynamically. Okay, a feature which is not available in most of the software, so some of which are very complicated to do, let's say in programming languages. But through GeoGebra, it's actually very easy. You don't need to know complicated codes and something like that on this. Okay, and I prefer to say this is the power of slider. Power of slider. Okay, this is very interesting. So you can increase color on this, for instance, if you're interested in it, and then you can play this and see what is going to happen, like that. Okay, so that is all for today. So thank you for listening, and enjoy your slider.